Man, I don't think I've ever seen a motor blow up this bad. Goodness. How's it going, everyone? Danny Armstrong coming at you again with another video for the A-Tech Racing Performance Shop. On today's video, we have an interesting one. Got a customer that brought in his bike. Unfortunately, it's blown up, and it hurts to see because this is a very nice bike. We have a 2022 Road Glide, and she's built to high heaven. If you're new to the channel, please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications, and leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts, let me know what you want to see, and let me know how I can help. Alright everyone, you guys get into the video. I'm gonna get into this bike.
Alright, the first thing we're going to do getting into this guy is we got to remove the seat and we got to remove the gas tank. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Now that I got those off, I'm going to move to the left side of the motor and pull out these spark plugs. One thing you would take note at is the spark plug on the left, which is the front cylinder, is soaked with oil. Keep that in mind for later. I got the oil draining out now, and check this out. This is the drain plug, and this is what's stuck on it. Yeah. She's definitely seen better days. Next, I got the outer primary cover removed, and we're gonna go ahead and start pulling all this out now. I'm gonna be removing the Torx on the crankshaft, as well as the left-handed thread nut on the clutch. A little trick to make your life easier, go ahead and wrap a zip tie around the automatic chain adjuster. This helps hold it in place. Once you got the bolt and the reverse hand nut off, you can go ahead and remove this entire assembly. With these M8 motors, in order to pull the magneto, you gotta actually pull the inner primary cover itself. So we're gonna undo these bolts, and we're gonna pull that now. And don't forget the 2 bolts holding the starter motor. One thing I noticed is that this transmission is not rotating over smoothly. So we're gonna have to figure out that later. So normally when you get all the bolts out, these inner covers usually just pop out. This one was fighting me, and I noticed that there was RVT and what looks like to me is JB Weld holding it together. I'm not sure if you can see that, but that's what I was finding. Looks like it's on the gasket surface too. What I'm gonna do is use this miniature spreader to try to get this thing to back off and come off the bike. As you can see right down there, it's fighting and hanging on. It does not want to come off. Well, shit, that didn't work. For now, I'm just gonna go to the other side of the bike and I'll come back to this. Moving over to the right side of the bike, I'm gonna start tearing down the top end. First thing I did was get the exhaust removed. And this is honestly a pretty badass little exhaust. It's from a company called Gallop Motorcycles. If you like these little shorties, this is all stainless, definitely check them out. Moving over to the left side of the bike, I already got the horn assembly removed. Now it's time to remove the horn mount itself. What I'm trying to do is get room so we can actually pull off the throttle body. Oh, here's something you don't normally see. You got pieces of aluminum and metal inside of the throttle body. Yeah, that's not good. Not supposed to be there. Once you got all the wires disconnected along with the 4 Allen bolts, the throttle body just comes right out. And uh-oh, what is that? Let's see what this is. Looks like it's, yep, some more metal. Man. I'm not sure where it's all coming from, but I'm sure we're gonna find out soon enough. Moving on, we're getting ready to pull off the rocker covers, but in order to do that, on this particular M8 model, it's got an oil crossover tube that's over the motor. It connects to the back cylinder, goes right over the top, and it connects to the front cylinder along with the oil cooler itself. We gotta remove that first. This is what it looks like. Now that we got this off, we can go ahead and move to the front cylinder. Now that I got that rocker cover off, it's time to probe these rockers off. These are going to be 12-point bolts. Once you got those removed, you can go ahead and pull out your push rods. One thing to keep in mind is that your intake is actually going to be shorter than your exhaust. So be mindful of that if you're doing this at home. After that, remove the 5 bolts that are holding the lower rocker cover on. And be mindful when you're pulling this off that this is the auto decompression release. It's routed through the cover itself. Once you got that out of the way, you can go ahead and start loosening up the 4 cylinder head bolts. These are also 12-point sockets. Once you got those all removed, the head should just pull right off. And this is what we're looking at. My goodness.
Definitely pick up the seats. A little bit of the head. Might be able to salvage this. Definitely the valve. Cylinder's done. Oof.
I think it's safe to say we found where some of that metal was coming from. What I just found right here is that the front rod has a lot of knock and play. Definitely not good. Moving to the rear cylinder, one thing I ran into is that these bolts are really tight because of the frame. You need some type of special tool. I didn't have it. So what I did is I went out to Home Depot and I found this little gear wrench set. I ended up grinding down the socket it came with to make it work, but I made it work. And honestly, it's probably going to make a good addition to the toolbox. This is the kit that I found. I think it cost me about $64. Came with a really long, low-profile ratchet, along with this little stubby. Not sure if I'll use these, but hey, it helped me get through this job, so I'm happy with it. Now that I got that cover off, time to remove these rear rockers just like the front. Go ahead and grab that 12-point socket and get those removed. After that, go and remove those 5 bolts that are holding on the secondary or the lower rocker cover, and pull those guys off too. Just like the front cylinder, you got the auto decompression release and it's routed through, so be very mindful when you're pulling this off. You don't want to damage that cable. It goes through the secondary spot back here. Once you got those 4 cylinder head bolts removed, just like the front cylinder, this will just pull right off. Now that the top end's taken down, I'm coming back over to this inner primary cover to try to get this off. I'm using a Motion Pro case splitter just to try to get this thing to pull off, because, man, this JB Weld is just fighting me. With this tool, I'm just taking my time, and I can honestly see that it's slowly starting to walk off. I'm also using a little dead blow to smack this thing around just to kind of help put a vibration through it, and hopefully it helps. But you can see it is starting to let go. I also found that it's not just hanging on to those dowels. It seems to be hanging up on this bearing right here. Success. Goodness. Well, got that off. Let's get this pulled off and take a look at it. Now that I got this off, I can see a couple things that was holding it back. The biggest one was this plain bearing. I'm pretty sure that it just was not trying to let go of the inner main bearing from the primary. And second, this right here is JB Weld on the gasket surface. This part of it did not want to let go. Now that the inner primary cover has been removed, we can move forward and start pulling out this bottom end. I have a little lift with the block of wood underneath that because we're going to use that later. I'm going to need to pull off this oil cooler. And you got to pull off the kickstand holder so you can get to this nut. And we're also going to pull the 4 main bolts that hold the cases together. Moving over the right side of the bike, got that bolt coming through, but you're going to see it's going to hit the brake pedal, so we got to remove that too. Once you get done accidentally dropping everything, go ahead and collect everything and pull off the brake pedal. Be mindful here as well, there's a couple O-rings that seal this up just to keep this thing from seizing. You don't want to have sticky brakes. Moving on, I got the oil cooler over removed. I'm just draining out the excess oil that's inside of it. One thing to note is how dark and sludgy this oil is. Now that I got all the bolts removed off of the engine itself, we just got to remove this little plate right here. This is for the motor mount. Once you got that out of the way, the motor will loosen up. Just make sure it's all unplugged before you start pulling it out. And boom, there she is. Just like that, there's your bottom end. Let's get this on the bench, start tearing it down. Just taking another quick look at these cylinders again. And man, look at the damage on these. They actually cracked the skirt. And they actually did it on both pistons too, unfortunately. So these are junk. Now that I got this on the bench, let's go ahead and start tearing it down. First thing we're going to do is actually remove the cam chest cover. Once we got that removed, it's time to start breaking down the cam plate itself. Again, look at how dark and sludgy this oil is. You're going to need a special tool to hold this in place. I'm going to be using a Motion Pro clutch hub tool, but I'm going to use these pins to actually hold the gear itself. I'm going to use this to zip off these bolts and start breaking this thing down, getting it apart. Alright, now that we got that all taken apart, the next thing we gotta do is remove these tappet covers so we get the lifters out. One thing you could do is if it does not want to come off, the gasket's holding it, is just take a dead blow and softly put a vibration through it. You don't gotta smack it too hard. It will eventually break loose. Just trust the process. There you go. Good old dead blow. Once you got the lifter guides removed, you go ahead and start pulling out the lifters. These ones were kind of fighting me, and the reason why is there was metal holding them up, those little pieces right there. This motor only has 11,000 miles on it, so a lot of these components don't have that much wear. Yeah, this lifter right here was absolutely fighting me. It did not want to come out. There was a bunch of metal just holding it in there. Yeah, not good. Once you get the lifters all removed and all the hardware, you should be able just to pull out the cam plate along with the cam. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's a little bit of scoring on the pump itself, and of course little bits of metal inside the case there. Next thing you want to do is just go ahead and remove your entire oil pump assembly. Yeah, you can see little bits of metal in there too. Alright, moving forward, we're going to go ahead and start splitting this case. We're going to be removing these 12 case bolts. Now that I got those removed, I'm going to go ahead and use my little spreader tool to slowly start opening up the case. But I'm not going to force it. You also want to make sure the case is spreading open evenly. Alright, and check this out. Some more metal shaving goodness. This right here is a reusable oil filter. It's by a company called PC Racing USA, and this is their Flow reusable oil filter. Moving forward, I busted out my Motion Pro case splitter tool because, hey, that's what it's used for, right? What we're going to do is just slowly put some tension on this to open up the cases. Once I see that the cases are starting to split evenly all the way around, I just keep cranking it down. Alright, got the cases split, and oh my goodness, what is that? When it comes to finding extra metal in places, this motor just keeps on giving. And hey, look at that. Looks like we found the other half of the piston. This is crazy. This must have been a wild ride whenever this thing blew up. Well, moving on. Let's get this counterbalancer out. I'm just astonished at all this down here. It happens. But man, it's never fun to see. Now that I got the crankshaft removed, this thing's pretty much done. Look at that, it even took out one of the oiler jets. Goodness. There's just so much damage on this thing. Got metal all up in the gears for the counterbalancer too. And here's also what's left of that piston. Taking a look at this crankshaft right here, you got a lot of up and down play on this front rod, and then the back rod itself is actually very hard to rotate. Not sure if you can see how that's just hanging out there. What this is telling me is that this main bearing is also done. It also looks like it got very hot. And there she is. She's all torn down. Definitely hurt to see because, again, this is such a nice bike. But it does happen.
All right, what's up, everyone? Let's do a little recap on this thing. What can we do so this doesn't happen to you? Biggest thing that I was seeing with this bike is that it was ran out of oil, and it was also ran hard. One of my biggest things would just be stay on top of the oil. You know, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little excessive, but 2,500 to 3,000 miles, do an oil change. Every 250 to 300 miles, just check your oil. You know, check the dipstick, make sure the levels are adequate and where they need to be, and make sure that the oil itself isn't too burnt and not too dark. You know, that's the blood of these things, guys. Another thing to help keep these bikes staying on the road, and honestly for any kind of vehicle, any engine, dirt bikes especially, make sure you stay on top of the air cleaner. You know, everything's gonna suck in through there, and stay on top of the oil. Clean or replace your oil filter. If they're a usable oil filter like this one does, make sure that you service it in between when you do those oil changes. If you have a standard one, just replace it. You know, it's cheap insurance. Stay tuned, because with this bike in the future, we're going to be doing a big build. I think we're going to be doing a 143 stroker, so stay tuned for that. And again, please like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell icon, leave me a comment, let me know what you guys think. Appreciate you guys. Take care.